What was already looking bad in some ways is continuing to get worse as more things come out in terms of Michigan's Stein stealing operation. This is kind of a bizarre thing because if you've watched or listened to the show, we've talked a lot about it since 2019. Let's get into it on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. This is the earliest podcast that we've recorded in years, definitely since we've been on video, because I woke up a couple hours before my typical wake up time and check my phone and see all the ESPN stuff. Pete Thamel out there talking about my boy Connor Stalions. I stand with Connor Stalions, and talking about him being involved in the sign stealing, and the NCAA wants to see his computer and all of this, and you have anonymous Big Ten coaches out there blasting Michigan, saying that this is a more elaborate scheme than the Patriots or the Houston Astros and all of that stuff. So my first reaction to all of that is give me a break. Give me an absolute break. I feel like more in the middle of this than I would like to, in some ways. But we're gonna discuss some of this stuff here real quick. And I don't know how much I feel like I can divulge per se. But nonetheless, this is, as Pete Thamel went on Get Up this morning, and he said that this is the NCAA piling on Jim Harbaugh. Like, they're piling on Jim Harbaugh for something that everybody does. And I'm going to give a shout out to Pastor Josh from my church, the Freedom Center, because as he pointed out this morning to me as well, he's like, this is, the NCAA is out here spilling the tea, right? They're telling people things when they're supposed to be keeping things close to the vest until the investigation is over, right? They're shaping public opinion. Right now, all Big Ten teams are on extra high alert against Michigan. They're all going to change their signs. They're all going to do all these different things, and they are going to. And Michigan's going to be the sacrificial lamb as far as this is concerned. And again, I know there's rival people out there that are deciding that they're going to watch this. They're going to listen to this. If you're watching it, then you know what I'm wearing. If you're listening, I'm wearing both my Michigan versus everybody hoodie as well as my Michigan versus everybody hat instead of my typical Jesus is King. I am standing in solidarity with Michigan because this is like paying for a recruit's cheeseburger. This is an insane thing, right? Where it's like you know that the SEC has long been handing bags of cash to people, and you come down on a coach that bought a recruit a cheeseburger and then denied it, right? Like, did you even ask? Like, well, the problem, he's denied it. Did you even ask the SEC teams, that have been long engaged in this? What, did you even give them an opportunity to deny it? No, you haven't. It's the same stuff with this sign stealing thing. It's like I said on the show on Thursday, every team steals signs. Some of them are better than others. Do I believe that Michigan had in-person scouts at other games? I don't know. I will be honest, I don't know. But like I said yesterday, if the spirit of the rule was more so if the spirit of the rule was more so just to make it so things didn't cost more for teams, right? Like, which is why that rule was included, according to Yahoo. And not because it was like, oh, you get such an unfair advantage, then whatever, right? But when it comes to Connor Stalions, these are two separate things, because Connor Stalions is at every Michigan game and has been going back as far as I can remember, and I've covered the team since 2015. He's been at every one that I can recall. I mean, I'm sure there was a point in which he wasn't, but since 2019, he has been at every Michigan game. He has not been over at some other school watching their stuff. Now, what type of stuff does he have on his computer that the NCAA wants to see? I don't know, but I can tell you this. I would have had a little bit, because I actually, like I said yesterday, a little birdie had kind of put something in my ear, but it wasn't regarding, it turned out it was regarding all of this that has come out. But other names were involved. And I asked the requisite people that I would go and ask about it, and the answers they gave me sufficiently tell me the story of essentially what is happening here. In that, to me, I don't believe there's anything that's Michigan's done that's illegal. And do I have any evidence of that? No, but I will say that the conversations I've had would have told me if Michigan was doing something illegal. Now you can sit and say, well, they're going to withhold from you because you're going to. No, I'm not a type of person, as you might know by my coverage, that is going to burn Michigan for anything. Number one, because it's not really in my job description. I know I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not working for. I do work for USA Today, but I'm not out there like trying to have these big expose type stories, right? That's just not what we do here, right? I am the intermediary between the team and the fans. That is my job. My job is not to bust open some cabal or wide conspiracy theories that get laid to waste. That's not really my thing. It's to be that intermediary between the fans and the program. And I have heard things from time to time that certainly could have been on the NCAA's radar, but it would have been something that the NCAA would have been like, fine, whatever, give me 3 Hail Marys and you're all good, right? Like that's the type of thing that it would have done with anything that I've heard that's unsavory coming from the program. But I have had conversations about this without knowing that this was going to come to the forefront. And all I can say, I know there are people out there, I get emails every time from people that are like, why aren't you just telling us everything? I can't tell you everything. This is why I can't tell you everything all the time. Because I don't want to be in the next Pete Thamel NCAA drop, right? Of as reported on Locked On Wolverines and all that stuff. That's not our job here. But I can say that I have a pretty good feeling that there is nothing insane here. I don't know how else to put it. That the things that are being alleged are not unique to Michigan. And that from my understanding, which again could be wrong, but I feel like I know more about this than probably, I probably shouldn't say anyone outside of Schembechler Hall, but I would say most, that there isn't anything. Now, could there be things that were hidden from me? Absolutely. But in the spirit in which I had the conversations that I had a month ago, those things would have been revealed to me. And they haven't been. We're going to continue talking about this here in just a moment. Before we do, listen, there's so much uncertainty in the world right now, not just with Michigan, but you had the fires in Hawaii. You have everything that's happening in the Middle East right now. Hurricanes and tornadoes in Florida, earthquakes in Turkey, all over the country. There was just earthquakes in San Francisco in the 4-ish range, but nonetheless. All of these things can lead to supply chain shortages for medications or the inability to get medications in a timely manner. The solution for you is the Jase case, which is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your case and add life-saving medications based on your unique needs. They have everything you need. I got it for Sarah and the boys so that they are good to go. And I'll probably get another one for me here in the coming weeks. Jase Medical now offers customizability for your Jase case with dozens of add-on medications. You can choose the medications that fit you and your family's unique needs. Jase is continually working to expand their medication offerings. In those recent efforts, they've added ivermectin as an option in the Jase case. So just know that is something that is out there for you. You can also buy a gift card for your family or loved ones so that they can get a Jase case of your own, or you can just, do like I did and get one for Sarah. Don't get one for Sarah. I already did that, but you know what I'm saying? So go to jasemedical.com, enter the code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. We are going to continue on still here in just a moment, but before we do, snap into this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you have a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. You've already missed out on this week's Thursday night football, but you got a full slate of games coming up on Sunday. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, overs, unders, player props, so much more. You get paid instantly, which is the most amazing part. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Kick off NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, so let's continue on here. I don't know exactly how to skirt around this, but doing our best here. And again, it's earlier than normal. I wanted to get something out to you as this is fresh. It's this dropped at like 1 a.m. I'm up at that time, but I didn't see it. I only saw it this morning when I woke up to a barrage of text messages of people who know what's going on, people who don't know what's going on, who want to know what's going on, and all that kind of stuff, or just have read the reports and yada yada yada. It's so, like I said at the top of the show, Paul Feinbaum went on to get up this morning and said, like, this feels like piling on. It 100% does. If you didn't watch or listen to the Thursday show where we talked about this, I made a declarative statement, which is accurate. I would imagine to the 100th degree, right? 100%. Every team has some element of scouting in it that includes a sign stealing element. Michigan is not immune from that. Now, this is where we get into some, like, can I and can I not say some things? I'll say this. When it comes to the alleged Connor Stalions, it is my understanding that his role from a signs and all of that as it pertains to Michigan is more from a defensive effort. And I know what you're going to say is like, oh, okay, I read on a message board, he stands next to the defensive coordinator. No, that's not what I'm saying. From a defensive effort, what have we been talking about on this show since 2019? We've been talking about other teams stealing Michigan's signs and Michigan not having the answer for that. So that it's been more about keeping other teams from knowing what Michigan is doing and being smart in that way. Again, there's more to my knowledge than what I'm sharing. There's certainly a lot more to the things that Connor Stalions does for the team. And you can go on like On3 and read what EJ Holland says about how he's involved in recruiting and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into all of that stuff behind a paywall and let that sit as it is. But what have we been talking about since 2019? Other teams stealing Michigan signs. It's not illegal to do so. Michigan was just terribly unsophisticated. And to my knowledge, again, my knowledge base is bigger than what I'm alluding to. But to my knowledge, Connor was instrumental in changing that and changing the vulnerability of Michigan in that front. Like we've talked about before, we talked about yesterday, and it's worth hammering home again. In 2018, Ohio State had Michigan's signs. Had them. Why did that game for Michigan go so much differently than all of Ohio State's other games that year? Because Ohio State knew what Michigan's signs were. That's common knowledge at this point. I've had multiple people who are no longer with the program openly tell me this. People that I would say a lot of you would know, maybe not everybody. I've had people that all of you, every single person watching or listening to this would know that told me that as well. They were more like confirmation, whereas others were more exculpatory with their information that they gave me. 2019 happens again. So while everyone was talking about this unbreachable talent gap between Ohio State and Michigan, I was being fed something completely different. It was, we're not that far apart. The problem is, there are issues where Ohio State knows exactly what we're running when we're running it, and therefore we can't really do anything about it, and we can't seem to get the powers that be to be able to change. 2020, I sat in the stands watching the Wisconsin game with full knowledge that Wisconsin probably had Michigan signs, and it was obvious. It was beyond obvious. I know this is not what is being alleged of Michigan. What's being alleged of Michigan is that they sent somebody to these games. I can tell you with a strong degree of certainty, 100%, that Connor Stalions was not that person. Now, did Connor Stalions hire someone to go out and do this? It seems extremely unlikely to me, and it again seems like something that I would have known about. Did Jim Harbaugh know about any of this that was going on when he denied it yesterday? You know, he had a statement that came out while I was out and about. I don't believe that he did, and I know that sounds kind of bizarre, but that's not the type of thing that Jim Harbaugh involved himself in. And I know that from conversations that I had. These are, when it came to other teams knowing the signs and stuff like that, that's not really. I was led to believe that Jim Harbaugh didn't really involve himself in that. So I don't think that this is that he did necessarily know, like when he says like, yeah, I had no idea about any of this. I believe him in that. That doesn't mean it wasn't happening. But again, I don't believe it was happening as it's being put out there by the media, the national media. So where does that lead us? That leads us to this place where we have to either accept the face value of what the NCAA is leaking, which again is that itself is morally repugnant because now the court of public opinion has made their decision, right? Like, say the NCAA goes out and and does their investigation. Michigan openly and cleanly, you want to see Connor Stalions' computers? Here you go. Take a look. Look at everything. We haven't deleted anything. And that turns out to be true. And they look at everything and they say, you know what we were looking for, not here. They continue to investigate and find out, hey, everything we were looking for, turns out you did things by the book. Well done, Michigan. Well done. They're not going to say that, but I'm saying, if for the sake of this hypothetical, that's what they go out and do. Well done, Michigan. 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. 5 years from now, all you're going to see, especially when it comes to people who aren't of Michigan, people who aren't Michigan fans, people who hate Michigan, it's going to be like, well, they're the cheaters. Michigan is the cheaters. The NCAA is doing what it's doing because that's what it wants to happen. It knows that that's going to happen. It doesn't care. It's not waiting until its findings are it's not like Stretchgate, right? Like it was all done, right? At that point, it was It was reported on and it was done. And then the only thing left was to negotiate what the punishment was. No, they are like, we have a hypothesis that we would like to test. So we're going to go ahead and tell. Now, I have great respect for Ross Dellinger and Dan Wetzel. Pete Thamel, not quite as much. Who's Pete Thamel close to? This is starting to feel really, really conspiracy theory-ish. But who's Pete Thamel close to? Who is he known to be a well-known associate of? Someone who doesn't really like Michigan. Someone who used to be the head coach at The Ohio State University. And there's all this talk of, Big Ten coaches talking to these people, these media people, including Pete Thamel. And they don't have positive things to say about Michigan. I wonder who that could be. Let's get into some ramifications. We're going to do that here in just a moment. Before we do, listen, passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and at the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, so here's the deal. Michigan, for better or worse, other teams, at least know, hey, Michigan's at least doing what everyone's doing. I mean, I can't understate that enough. Every team steals signs. Whether they are successful at it or not is a completely different story. But every team does that. It's part of it's not cheating, and let me be straight up with that. Like maybe from the full, straight up ethical, going face to face, ethical, what have you. I mean, is it a little unsavory? Absolutely. But against the letter of the law, it is not. That's not me making excuses, rival people out there. Again, if you're out there on YouTube or whatever, and you're saying, saying whatever in the comment section, you're talking to the other commenters. You're not talking to me. I don't see any of this. But nonetheless, it's something that everyone does. That to some degree, you have to line up against whatever it is and still play the game. Where Michigan got really good is not that it got really good at sign stealing. It got really good at concealing its own signs. Where Michigan also got really good was being more multiple defensively and actually offensively. It was Michigan's ability to bully up front that changed things. It was less scheme and more physical. It was more execution, less there's going to be a guy in the wide open, right? Like think back to that 2018 Ohio State game. For the first third of the game, it was okay, stalemate. Okay, this feels like it could go one way or the other, right? You go into halftime, Michigan's down by 5. Certainly they had some busts and whatever, but in the second half, it was Ohio State knew exactly. It was evident Ohio State knew. In retrospect, we didn't know in that time that Ohio State knew exactly what Michigan was doing, and when it didn't, it did a check with me, and they'd motion the tight end, and then they would be given whatever. So there's that. Michigan's not necessarily doing that, number one. They do a little check with me stuff, but for the most part, they're not changing things up. For the most part, Michigan is actually just going up against the other team and bullying them on either side of the ball, right? Doesn't matter how many you can know literally the play, the other team could know the play that Michigan's running, and Michigan could know the play the other team's running. If you're just bigger, faster, stronger, better, there's no combating that. So that's that's number one. Okay. Number two, we'll know very certainly on Saturday if just the level of benefit that it gave Michigan. Because now Michigan State knows, right? Like, there was a report that Michigan State had considered canceling the game, which is unreal. But they didn't. If Michigan goes out and wins the same way that it's been winning, well, then you've got your answer for sure. Not that big of an asset to Michigan. And I fully believe that they will. If they had a pretty good beat on what Michigan State's signs were, and, maybe that'll be evident too. I don't know. But ultimately, we'll have an idea pretty soon just how beneficial it was to Michigan. But again, to my knowledge, and I've had a lot of conversations about this throughout the years. A lot. Probably more than anyone that isn't in that building. Michigan and where it was when it came to sign stealing was more of the victim of being the sign stealer. Or not the victim of being a sign stealer, but a victim of having their sign stolen than vice versa. Take that for what you will. I know there's people out there that aren't going to believe it. It's what I've been led to believe is true. And you can go through every single show that we've talked about this over the course of the last 4 years and find that I've been incredibly consistent with that. Now, was Michigan doing more? I don't know. When it comes to this, was Michigan electronically communicating it to its players? I think that's absolutely absurd. Right? Greg Schiano's out there at halftime complaining about things. There's some crazy things going on. Like, that game was close at halftime, right? Like, that wasn't, it doesn't stand to reason, right? Michigan was not looking super sharp against Rutgers in the early going. Who did Greg Schiano coach under? And what does that person have to do with Pete Thamel? And what does that person have to do that's tied into all of this? And who are his associates? Ask yourself that question. That's going to do it for this episode. We're still going to do a mailbag. I'm guessing now we're going to do the mailbag on Saturday because of all of this, Saturday morning. So that's the plan now. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be talking again very soon. Peace.